covered hill.
Here is an uncomfortable truth. The greatest rock ballads ever written came from an era when artists were allowed to suffer publicly. No PR teams cleaning up their image. No cancel culture forcing them to apologize for their pain.
Naturally, to think that only
Just raw, unfiltered devastation pressed onto vinyl. These 12 songs would never be released today. They are too honest, too dark, too real. And that is exactly why you need to hear them. Before Nazareth turned this song into a power ballad anthem in 1975, it had already lived several lives. Written by Boudleaux Bryant in 1960, it was first recorded by the Everly Brothers and later by Roy Orbison. But when Scottish hard rockers Nazareth stripped away the sweetness and replaced it with raw, aching guitar, they transformed the song into something entirely different. Lead singer Dan McCafferty poured his gravelly voice into every syllable, like a man who had learned those lyrics the hard way. The song climbed to number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became the band's biggest hit in America. There is a reason this particular version endures. It sounds like a scar that never fully healed, like a man finally admitting that some lessons only come through loss.
To treat myself and visit a nearby tower and climbing.
It opens with a confession that still shocks listeners today. A man standing at the altar, abandoned by his bride, contemplating climbing to the top of a nearby tower and throwing himself off. Released in 1972, this song spent 6 weeks at number 1 in America and became one of the biggest hits of the decade. But beneath its gentle piano melody lies one of the darkest lyrics ever written for a pop song. Gilbert O'Sullivan was only 21 years old when he penned this devastatingly honest portrait of loneliness, loss, and the silence of heaven.
Naturally.
The song moves from romantic abandonment to the death of the narrator's father, then to watching his mother's heart break so completely that she never recovered. O'Sullivan has always maintained the song is not autobiographical, though his own father did pass away when Gilbert was young. Perhaps that distance allowed him to write with such surgical honesty. Neil Sedaka once called it genius writing. Marveling that someone so young could capture such complex emotional devastation. The word naturally at the end of every verse carries all the weight. It suggests that being alone is not an accident, it is fate. Neil Young introduced this song during a 1971 concert with words that still echo. He talked about moving to California and seeing great musicians that nobody ever got to see. The real good ones, he said. The ones nobody got to see because of heroin. The song was written about Danny Whitten, the gifted guitarist of Crazy Horse, who was spiraling into addiction. Young considered Whitten his musical soulmate, but by 1972, heroin had taken over.
Other man, gone.
During rehearsals for a tour, Whitten was so high he could barely hold his guitar. Young had no choice. He gave his friend $50 and a plane ticket back to Los Angeles. That night, Danny Whitten died from an overdose. Young would later say he felt responsible, that he carried that guilt for years. The song appeared on the Harvest album and became one of rock's most powerful warnings against addiction. Every junkie's like a setting sun, Young sings, beautiful and tragic, brilliant and doomed. In June of 1970, Pete Townshend was in a hotel room in Denver after a concert, wrestling with temptation. A female fan had made advances. Townshend, married and devoted to the teachings of his spiritual guru Meher Baba, retreated alone to his room and began writing what he called a prayer. "If my fist clenches, crack it open," he wrote. That prayer became the foundation for one of The Who's most intimate songs. Originally conceived for Townshend's abandoned rock opera Lifehouse, it was meant to be sung by the villain Jumbo, a character who felt forced into darkness despite believing himself to be good. But the parallels to Townshend's own life were impossible to ignore. The loneliness of being the creative force behind a legendary band, the pressure of constant creation, the isolation that fame brings. When Roger Daltrey recorded the vocals in April 1971, he had just experienced a personal tragedy. His dog had been run over that very day. and he was struggling to hold himself together. That grief poured into his voice, giving the song an intensity far beyond what any studio technique could achieve. Have you ever felt misunderstood by everyone around you?
Planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while
The lyrics began as a poem written by Harry Chapin's wife, Sandra. She had heard a country song about an old couple looking at an empty swing set, remembering when children filled their home. That image haunted her. So did memories of her first husband's distant relationship with his own father. She combined them into verses about a boy who grows up watching his father choose work over time together, then becomes exactly the same kind of man. Harry initially dismissed the poem, but when their son Joshua was born in 1974, everything changed. Harry was on the road constantly, performing over 200 shows a year, plus charitable benefits. He recognized himself in those lyrics. The song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 that December and became his only chart-topping single. The cruel irony is that Harry Chapin died in a car accident in 1981 at only 38 years old. He was on his way to perform a benefit concert. His children were still young. The song he sang as a warning became his epitaph. In 1973, two members of Lynyrd Skynyrd were mourning. Ronnie Van Zant had lost his grandmother. Gary Rossington had lost his mother. The two musicians sat together in Van Zant's apartment, sharing memories of the women who raised them. What struck them was how similar their advice had been. Be satisfied with simple things. Find love. Remember there is someone watching over you. Van Zant wrote the lyrics while Rossington composed the chord progression. The result was a song that felt like a mother's arms wrapped around you one last time. Producer Al Kooper did not think they should release it. He was wrong. The song became one of Skynyrd's most beloved tracks, performed at countless funerals and weddings, played by sons thinking of mothers they will never see again. 4 years after recording it, Van Zant would die in a plane crash along with two other band members. He was only 29 years old. The band has dedicated Simple Man to him ever since.
Till the landslide brought me down.
Stevie Nicks was 26 years old, broke, exhausted, and questioning everything. She had been working as a waitress and a cleaning lady while trying to make music with her boyfriend, Lindsey Buckingham. Their first album as Buckingham Nicks had failed. Their relationship was fracturing under the pressure of poverty. Her father, president of a bus company, had given her 6 months to make something happen or come home. She drove Lindsey to Aspen, Colorado, where he was rehearsing with Don Everly. Alone in a borrowed house, staring at the Rocky Mountains through the window,
Getting older too.
she picked up her guitar and wrote Landslide in about 5 minutes. The snow-covered hills became a mirror for her reflection. The fear of changing, of building her life around someone who might not be there tomorrow, of getting older while her dreams stayed just out of reach. 3 months later, Mick Fleetwood called. He invited them to join his band. Nicks made her father's deadline with time to spare, but she still cannot sing that song without feeling everything she felt that winter in Colorado. When Syd Barrett walked into Abbey Road Studios on June 5, 1975, nobody recognized him. The founder of Pink Floyd, the brilliant songwriter who had created their early masterpieces, had become a ghost. His head was shaved. His eyebrows were gone. He had gained so much weight that his former bandmates thought he was a stranger, perhaps someone from the record label. Roger Waters eventually realized who he was and broke down in tears. Barrett had been forced out of the band 7 years earlier, his mind shattered by mental illness and excessive use of psychedelic drugs. The album they were recording that day was already about him.
smile from a veil.
Shine on You Crazy Diamond was a tribute to his lost genius. Wish You Were Here was a meditation on absence, on the distance between who someone was and who they became. Barrett sat in the studio listening to the mix of a song written in his honor, showing no signs that he understood its meaning. He wandered into David Gilmour's wedding reception that same day, then disappeared without saying goodbye. It was the last time any member of Pink Floyd saw him. He would live another 31 years in seclusion before passing away in 2006. Does this song remind you of someone you have lost?
Speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
By late 1968, Paul McCartney was falling apart. The Beatles were disintegrating. Their manager, Brian Epstein, was dead. The business conflicts and personal tensions were destroying friendships that had survived since Liverpool. McCartney was staying up late, drinking too much, taking too many drugs, watching everything he loved collapse. Then one night, he had a dream. His mother appeared to him. Mary McCartney had died of cancer when Paul was only 14 years old. He had never fully processed that loss, had simply pushed forward, using music to fill the void.
Let it be, let it be, let it be.
But in this dream, she came to him and told him not to worry. "Everything would be all right," she said. "Just let it be." McCartney woke up with tears in his eyes and a song forming in his mind. The track was recorded during the miserable sessions that would become the Let It Be album, the last record the Beatles ever released. John Lennon was not a fan. He thought it sounded like McCartney trying to write his own hymn. But for millions of listeners, that is exactly what it became. A moment of grace in a world that offers so few.
I should let you know what you
Paul McCartney once called it the killer song of all time. It has been recorded by more than 150 artists, most famously by Harry Nilsson in 1972 and Mariah Carey in 1994. But the original version was created by Badfinger, a band that the Beatles themselves had championed. Pete Ham wrote a song called If It's Love but could not find a strong enough chorus. His bandmate Tom Evans had written a chorus but had no verses. The two pieces fit together like a key in a lock. Badfinger was supposed to be the next great British rock band. They had hits, they had the support of Apple Records, they had everything except an honest manager. Stan Pauly systematically stole their money, leaving the band members unable to pay their electric bills while their songs played on radio stations around the world. On April 24, 1975, Pete Ham hanged himself in his garage. He was 27 years old. His girlfriend was pregnant with their daughter. His suicide note blamed Pauly by name. 8 years later, Tom Evans, still tormented by the same financial devastation and the loss of his friend, took his own life in the exact same way. The royalty disputes were finally settled in 1985. Both songwriters were already gone. On March 20th, 1991, Eric Clapton was in a New York hotel room getting ready to pick up his 4-year-old son Connor for lunch. They had plans to visit the Central Park Zoo together. Then the phone rang. Connor had been playing in the apartment he shared with his mother on the 53rd floor of a Manhattan high-rise. A housekeeper had left a window open. In an instant, everything changed. Clapton had only recently gotten sober. Connor was the reason he had finally committed to sobriety. Now the child who had saved his life was gone. For 9 months, Clapton withdrew from the world. He did not perform. He barely functioned. But slowly, he found his way back to music. Working with lyricist Will Jennings, he wrote 2 songs about his son. One was Circus Left Town, about the last night they spent together at a circus performance.
I just can't stay.
The other asked the question every grieving parent carries forever. Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Tears in Heaven was never meant for public release, but film director Lili Zana convinced Clapton that it might help someone else who was suffering. The song won 3 Grammy Awards in 1993. In 2004, Clapton announced he would stop performing it. He said he no longer felt the loss the way he once did, and performing the song without that connection felt dishonest. His life had changed. But the song remains, a permanent monument to a grief that words can barely contain. Have you ever lost someone whose absence still defines your days?
Settle down. If you want, you can.
This was not on your list, but it belongs here. In 1970, Cat Stevens wrote a song about the universal conflict between generations. A father who wants his son to take life slow and a son who needs to find his own way. Stevens originally conceived it for a musical about the Russian Revolution, but the project never materialized, so he recorded it himself, singing both parts with different vocal registers to capture each perspective. The father's voice is gentle, pleading, full of accumulated wisdom. The son's voice is urgent, restless, already moving toward the door.
I was ordered to listen, now there's a...
Neither is wrong. Neither can fully understand the other. Stevens would later convert to Islam and step away from music for decades. But this song continued to resonate with families everywhere. It has been played at graduations and funerals, at moments when parents realize their children have become strangers, and at moments when children finally understand what their parents were trying to say. Rock music is often about rebellion. This song is about the cost of that rebellion on both sides of the generational divide. Every single person watching this video has one song on this list that hits different. The one that makes you turn up the volume and close your eyes. The one that brings back someone you lost. We want to know which one. Comment it right now. One song, one reason. That is all we are asking. Do not scroll past this without answering.